What's up, YouTube? This is the COVID special right behind me. If you follow me on Instagram, you've seen it before. If not, we'll take a deep dive into the build. This came to me stock in 2020, and we built it from the ground up to get everything you need done off-roading, but still look relatively stock on the outside, similar to all my personal builds, but this one was done for a close friend of mine. I'm going to briefly go over the exterior on this thing. So we did a later model 01 4Runner front grille that's color matched, so it doesn't have the chrome. There are Baja S1s in the original fog light pockets that were made with custom mounts. And we've got JDM corner lights without the orange reflector. So that pretty much wraps up the front visual wise. Oh, and the hood. That is that is a OEM replacement hood with a scoop. This one did not come with it, but he wanted to add it to, you know, round off the final package. The sunroof is running an aftermarket visor, but all the other visors on the doors and the actual wing itself are optional Toyota from the Hilux Surf in Japan. And what's cool about this one is it's actually got little adjustable vents for however you want to direct the air. So I always thought that was a cool little touch. But we usually just keep these closed on his because there's really no need to adjust them out. We've got a rear custom swing out bumper, high clearance, and that was made due in part to help with the sliders. And we've got a full armor package from the front all the way back to the transmission cross member. This thing is skidded up. And from there, we did a ton of gussets. It's got Total Chaos cam tab gussets, the IM Keith lower control arm gusset kit, and we did a upper IM Keith reinforcement gusset on that. Back here, we've got Total Chaos link arms with the rear Panhard bar and IM Keith gussets on that as well. I forgot to mention that these sliders are weld-on BAMP sliders, not bolt-on. And then there's the Panhard bar. So it's very well built for off-road. We did one pretty gnarly trail out in Moab, the trifecta. You've done it before. It's Poison Spider, Golden Spike, and Gold Bar rim. And that's pretty much where all the marks came from on the front skids, and all of this stuff on the side as well. So that was a pretty epic Moab trip. That was actually done right after I built this thing. We all went out together. As you can see, the engine bay is dusty and doesn't look good, but it is fully maintained. And by that I mean I did a timing belt, water pump tensioner, every single gasket seal, spark plug wire, intake manifold gasket, anything that can be changed besides the piston rings and main bearings has been changed on this motor. and we did a washer fluid bottle relocate because on the 4Runner stock it's right here where the wheels are going to rub. So aside from that, the motor's all stock. I've got an aftermarket battery, and that's pretty much it. The alternator went out shortly after we got it on the road, so that's all OEM Toyota. Pretty much everything is OEM Toyota, from maintenance wise even down to the fuel filter. And we did a steering rack, all the inner and outer tie rods, that is all brand new from Toyota. Front and rear drive shafts are brand new as well from Toyota, and this was all relatively done at the same time as the build. So it came to and from a few times in 2020, but it was all done around the same time, so it's got roughly the same mileage as far as maintenance is concerned. So as you can see, the inner boot is stretched. That's what we call the inner boot stretch mod. And this was done because at these angles, the boot will rub and tear without much life. So this was done to prolong the life, and we actually haven't had any issues with it. Upper and lower ball joints were changed. We have a custom made stainless brake line that worked with the relocated upper mount on top because of the spindle gussets. So you put spindle gussets on and you can't use the stock brake line without bending it, so we made a new one just so it looked clean and proper. And then we've got Kings, and I did a bit of ARP hardware on this thing, so it's got a little bit here and there, not as much as my truck, but he wanted to add some, so we did. And as you can see, it's got a little bit of use, which isn't bad, but these bearings are probably going to need to be replaced soon. Oh, and I forgot to mention those shock tower gussets as well on the side for the upper control arms. Here's another shot of that brand new steering rack with inner and outer tie rods and the drive shaft as well. I also changed the rack joint, so that's that little rubber cushion piece that goes between the shaft and the steering column. And the steering column was fully removed and fixed for the rattle. So there's a slack in the steering on a stock column from a pin that Toyota puts in. So we slightly tack welded it on each side to remove the slack. Otherwise it feels like you're driving a boat on the freeway with a good 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch play. In the interior, we kept it relatively stock. There is a JDM overhead console that houses a scan gauge 2 with a custom mount to replace the gauges that come on that overhead console right there. So that one's a special order piece, but nothing else too fancy in here. Did change the head unit and did put a system in it, so it's got an amp and a sub, but other than that, relatively stock. The rear is rocking a full-size spare, and we've routed a camera back here. So the head unit up front has a reverse camera, and then these guys, they were black, they faded a little bit, but they are lights, so they shine some light down onto the license plate. And these two brackets right here are made for a high lift jack, but he doesn't like to run it only when necessary, so it's not on at the moment. So the wheels and tires are going to be BFG KM3s. These are 305/70/16s wrapped on a custom set of SCS beadlocked wheels. The wheels were sent to OMF, just like mine on the Tacoma, and they were beadlocked. So this inner ring right here is physically welded to the wheel, and then you've got the outer ring that pinches the wheel, and this is you know, some more ARP that we put on here to match. And of course, Project Kicks lug nuts, just like my truck. Those are the ones that have the inner washer that's separate, so when you torque it down, it doesn't mar up the wheel. So that's a cool piece. Here we got a custom transmission cooler. This is a Koyo-Rad transmission cooler with custom bent brackets and custom bent stainless lines with XRP race fittings. And so those go down to a bulkhead with some rubber hose down to the transmission. And that is removing the factory cooler in the radiator. So you're bypassing that completely and just running this one up front. The only thing you have to worry about with that is possible overcooling in cold conditions, you know, mountainous or snowy conditions. But I doubt this is ever going to be in that, so he doesn't really have to worry about that, if any. So it's on some OME 890 springs. We had to put these on to compensate for the weight from the bumper and the full-size spare, because it was sagging with the lighter rated spring. And we got the rear King adjustable resi shocks, Duro bumps front and rear, and we did stainless braided brake lines all the way around. So it's got a nice brake feel. It drives really well, and it's not re-geared. So a lot of people re-gear on a 35, but this is still a 33, a 305 70 16's a 33 12. So it's got a good stance, a nice footprint, but not too tall where it's going to cause issues. Well, that pretty much wraps up the build. You know, it's got the right stance. It's got everything it needs to off-road, skids, armor, travel. Everything maintenance-wise has been done, so I really can't change anything else besides, you know, improving upon it. You know, the gears will only help it even more. A locker would definitely help it, and a winch, especially after what we went through in Moab. But as long as he enjoys it the way it is, there's no need to mess with it. Thanks for watching.
Slow.
You got one more drop.
Slow.
Go ahead. A little bit more. Driver's in
Slow. Ah, got it. All right. Good job.